Alright, on the ramp here at Wales, I'll go through and start getting the aircraft ready for startup. It looks like our weather is not loaded in. Again, kind of struggling with that as we've been going through. Had the same problem departing Nome on the way up here, so not really surprised, but at least it'll mean hopefully we can take in the sights. So we're going to go ahead and request a pushback off the little tiny ramp here, just so we got some room to kind of move around and get out. So we'll just have them push us back quite a bit, and we'll go ahead and go through, get the aircraft ready to start up as soon as we are as far back as we want to be. And this should be good here. So we'll tell them thank you very much for that pushback. We'll set the parking brake once again. We got our throttle to idle, prop full, mixtures in the cutoff position. We've got our beacon on, and both of our tanks are open. So with that, now we can go ahead and go to fuel boost on and starter on. Now let's watch these gauges, make sure our oil pressure climbs up. Kind of watch everything climb up for just a moment. Looks good, so let's go to low idle. You see everything really take off there. And we'll wait till we hear it kind of kick in. Once we hear it kick, we'll turn the starter off and put the fuel boost back to normal. Any second now. There it goes. So starter off, fuel boost normal. Full rich on that. Go ahead and set our takeoff flaps as well. Avionics 2 can come on now, as well as our nav, pitot heat, stall heat, taxi light. Let's set our CDI up to GPS PFD. We'll go to bearing 1, get GPS data. We have the RNAV approach for runway 5 already loaded in the GPS, as the approaches aren't really, they're not in the sim, so just picking those fixes up manually. I'm trying to change the pressure to local pressure, and it's standard 2992, so not sure what's going on with that, but it is what it is. We'll double check real quick on the weather. Sometimes, yeah, it's live weather and nothing. So, alright, we're going to make do with that, and like I said, just double check everything real quick. We're going to be flying up the coastline. Don't really want to get too high. Kind of want to take in the sights, but since we do have clear weather, let's go ahead and take advantage of it. Let's just climb up for 5,000 feet, so we'll set that. Set our initial takeoff rate to 1,200 feet a minute. Turn on half bank mode. Talked about that in the last flight. Just really think it helps keep the aircraft under control, and especially when you're trying to fly on nav mode, which actually we're not going to depart on nav mode. We're going to fly off the coast a little bit, and we'll set that to heading there, and then we'll go ahead and increase our map range so you can kind of see where we're going. We're just flying up along the coastline, and that's Shishmaref. It's kind of a village basically on an island all by itself out in front of, I believe this is Shishmaref Bay or Inlet. I think it's Inlet, something like that, but they're all the way off on this little island, basically by themselves. Pretty wild, actually. If Alaska isn't remote enough for you, you've got that. So we're ready for taxi now and takeoff. So we'll go ahead and get the parking brake off. We could say goodbye to Wales and continue on our way to Shishmaref. Kind of unfortunate the weather doesn't load, but it is the way it is. And continuing this on, once that's actually working, will just be that much more fun. So be taking the runway here, runway 36 at Wales, I believe. Yeah, it should be runway 36. So hold here, go ahead and set takeoff power. Get a little carried away with the power setting. And release the brakes. Airspeed's alive. Go ahead and start pulling back a little bit. Try and get the nose wheel up, just nice and light. Off the runway. About 65 knots there. Slowly climb. And we got 80 knots, so we'll go ahead and pitch up now. Hold about 7.5 degrees nose up for departure here. We're going to continue the climb. And we'll kind of nose down to 5 degrees, build some airspeed, get our flaps in. There's 500 feet, so let's go ahead and start our left turn. And we'll pitch the nose down a little bit. Actually just level out on this heading. A positive rate and the aircraft is accelerating, so let's get our flaps up. Compensate for the flaps by pulling back a little bit more so we don't sink too much. It really likes to when you pull the flaps in. I said that basically the last couple times I've flown this plane, you just really got to stay on top of that. We'll just kind of hand fly it for a moment. As you guys see over the nose, you can see some of the mountains. They were kind of obscured in clouds when we flew into Wales, but now you can really kind of see just some mountains over there, a little bit inland, and then the inlet basically that we're kind of flying over at the moment, and the coastline over there on the left side. I still think, like I said in the last video, this looks super cool with all the ice and everything that would be up here for winter. I really do hope that they add that. So we'll go ahead now and hit the autopilot, get that engaged. I was gonna go ahead and like pull up the AWAS for Wales and Shishmaref for this flight, so you could we could get the weather before we departed and whenever we pulled up, but you know, it's a perfect day here in Alaska apparently, so we're good on that. Take a look outside the airplane. There's some cool islands over there. Out just a little ways. Once again, kind of seeing that terrain. And the big mountain we were kind of avoiding on our approach into Wales. You can see it in all its glory. The airport is really just right at the base of that. And this coastline that we're going to follow all the way up. And the airport should basically be on the coastline is where we're going to be going. And Shishmaref has runway 5 and 23. They have GPS RNAV approaches into both of them. We're set up for runway 5, which is going to be kind of a straight in for us anyways, so it kind of makes sense. But I guess nav mode didn't engage, but that's fine. We'll go ahead and get on the heading mode. bring it on over to 030. Just got to follow the coastline on the way up. It shouldn't be too complicated. Just follow this all the way. So it is such a nice day. Don't have the weather to contend with or anything. Go ahead and get our taxi and landing lights off. And the aircraft's leveling out at 5,000 feet now. So normally when I plan these, I use something like skyvector.com or something, especially if it's in the US, to kind of look and see what the conditions are like and decide what I want to do based off of that. And really with the weather the way it should have been right now, we definitely should be lower, first of all, and definitely planning for having to use the RNAV into Shishmaref. And the wind was going to be pretty strong. Obviously, that I know that one's been bugged. Talked about that in the last flight. But we have good weather now, so like I said, we might as well climb up and kind of take a look around. Just kind of accept it for what it is, and hopefully it will get fixed. Along with fixing the weather, I'm really hoping that they kind of get around to adding some of the missing airports. Especially up here in Alaska, there's a ton of little airstrips, and there's just some of them that don't even exist. I really like to see them added, hopefully. Or updated in. I'm not really sure how that'll work, but I'm sure somehow they can add to the database, and I think they probably will. There's so many airports in the US, especially. Like, the fact that they're not all in there isn't overly surprising, but we can see the lights from Wales behind us. It's getting kind of climbed up. You can see all those mountains a little bit further inland. They're not very high, but a decent amount of terrain, especially with the way the weather should be up here. You can see this inlet down there, another inlet up here. If we kind of take a look at the map, so this is the next inlet that's right in front of us, and then this inlet here is Shishmaref, I believe. It is an inlet anyways, and that's around where we should see the airport, so just keep flying up the coast here. And we can basically put it on a heading of, looks like 040 should be pretty good. That should kind of take us all the way there. You might actually be able to just see the runway at this point. I think it's in between, so you can kind of see that break of water. I think that's about where we're going to. It's not very far, just 33 miles now from Titik, which would have been our initial fix for the GPS approach into runway 23. Yeah, just 32 miles, and we're doing 173 knots across the ground. So I kind of want to continue this loop and head back to Nome. After this, I think we'll hopefully we'll get the weather working for the next trip, and we can depart Shishmaref and kind of go inland towards these mountains. There's a couple cool little airstrips in there. I think Flight Sim may actually only have one of them. We can actually take a look here at the map. Oh, wrong way. So there's an airstrip basically right here in the middle of these mountains. And it'd be pretty neat to fly into there, or another one kind of down in this region, these other set of mountains, especially if the weather's working, and maybe have to fly kind of in the terrain to stay underneath the clouds. But we'll see. If you do want to see flights like that, excuse me, if you do want to see some flights like that, definitely let me know in the comments below, kind of picking up where we left off and continuing on. It's also kind of what I talked about in the last video of getting into FS economy. It'd be flights kind of like this, where you're picking up from where you left off and going on to somewhere new. We're, let's see, 26 miles now from Tiddick. If we were flying the approach, we'd want to be at Tiddick, basically at or above 2,500, but 2,500 feet. We could plan for that. It won't hurt. It's not really much in the way of terrain kind of in our way around here, and we've got absolutely amazing visibility, so not too worried about it. You can see Shishmaref Inlet there now. So this is the inlet, and if you kind of look down here, you can see the airport's kind of in the middle of where that inlet is, so it's going to be right up around here somewhere, where my mouse is. It's kind of interesting how much is taken away from flying when the weather isn't a factor. It's a little bit disappointing. Maybe that's an understatement. Do just want to look really quickly and see. So our runway heading should be 049, so we're going to be coming in just slightly left of runway center line. But nothing too serious. Like some cool rivers and stuff flowing through into the inland. Yeah, probably. I know one of the airports I wanted to fly to basically follow a river off of one of these inlets, or yeah, I think it's off of one of these inlets. It kind of takes you right to the airport. That'd be pretty fun flying to do. Some proper IFR flying. I follow rivers, or I follow roads. However, in these conditions, it really doesn't matter. And when your 208 has a G1000, it really doesn't matter. Kind of wish, like the 172 has the option to have the G1000 or not. You kind of had the same option. with the 208. Not that I don't like this avionics suite, but it would be kind of nice to have the choice to go old school. So we got the coastline up in front of us. Just going to start descending a little bit and getting a little bit more over the top of the coastline. We'll go ahead and throw our landing lights on and get our taxi recog lights on. Trying to see a little bit over the nose. I don't want that much. I guess that's what we're gonna get. See the area. I think it's this island right here, because it's kind of disconnected from everything. Kind of see on the map there what we're working with. If we were on the GPS approach, we'd just be direct to Titic and then Roscoe afterwards. Flying it down. I don't remember what the minimum said they were. I could pull it up. Flying it down basically to 300 feet if we had to. But no need for that today. We still don't have the airport exactly in sight, but I think we'll be just fine. And we want to be at Roscoe at about 1,600 feet is what it says on the chart. So we'll just continue the descent. And that should give us a decent kind of vertical profile into the airport. I think I can kind of see the runway. I think I was mistaken. Might be right there. We'll see though. Tricky spot. We'll keep our airspeed up. It is a very massive inlet, and you got to think how isolated this is actually, that it's not like there's that inlet and then they're just around them, it's all connected. All this land is also kind of disconnected. You have to go down past like several inlets just to get to this place. It's absolutely wild. said too. I mean, Alaska isn't remote enough for you. You can go live on the extreme edge coastline of Alaska. And not like around Juneau or anything. No, no, no. Up north of Nome. Okay, so that is the island that we're going to. I can see the runway now, if you can spot it as well. It's about where my mouse is. Just right on top of it right there. Little tiny runway we're going into. Keep coming down, we'll start getting the airplane ready to be configured around Roscoe. Just need to pull the speed back a little bit, which we're actually, since we're about at 1600, we'll go ahead and reduce our throttle. We'll start getting slowed down to under 150 so we can put out our first notch of flaps. So we'll hold the throttle there, let the airspeed come down, and just hold our altitude. So bleed off the speed that way. So we kind of approach Roscoe. Just kind of continuing to retrim the aircraft a little bit to not sink too much. We lost about 40 feet, which, with the weather as good as it is, honestly, that's it's not great. I don't have anything to blame it on. Definitely can see the airport now. It is a very small strip, but we've got eyes on it. We're 5 miles out, so let's go ahead and start our descent in. Pull the throttle back even more. Push the nose down with the first notch of flaps coming out. They're ballooning a little bit, just as it happens whenever you take the flaps up. The opposite happens when you initially put them down. As you would expect, this plane just, I mean, so much lift whenever you throw those flaps down. You lose so much whenever you pull them up. Alright, so we're continuing down now towards the airport. Just under 4 miles out. So we're a bit high. Let's go ahead and get our landing flaps out. Get us nice and slowed down, and that will get us on path. Line up with the runway. You can see it there, little tiny airstrip. Lights, I'm about to get, it looks like one's turning slightly red, so we're almost on glide path. There we go. So let's just try and hold that. Try and hold about 80 knots, somewhere around there. A little high again, so come down. Just basically follow these lights in. This is such a cool little airport, man. Oh man. And a little village right behind it too. It's 500 feet. So about 80 knots. I'm gonna go ahead and slow down just a touch more. Little low there. Try and even it out. We'll just hold it now. fly it into the runway. We got plenty of runway to go, so we'll just kind of idle it down. Just lightly get on the brakes and try and keep it on center line here. Very a lot of undulation in the runway. Pretty cool. It seems somewhat realistic as well. The ramp maybe not so much, but it's probably not that bad actually. So let's go ahead and make a left turn, get off here. Get our strobe lights off, landing lights off, get our flaps in. Let's see, let's just whip it around over here and park up. And then we'll go through and shut the aircraft down. You can see that runway. I mean, it's not the shortest in the world. It's also not the most narrow, but you know, you kind of regularly see wind speeds up here of like almost 40 knots. It's not always going to be a headwind either. Like that, you can see how it could get quite tricky. Nevertheless, a really cool airport to fly into. So I hope you all enjoyed that. Anyways, go ahead and start getting the aircraft ready for shutdown. So all the lights off except for beacon. We're going to go ahead and turn our avionics 2 off. Let's see. Fuel boost off completely. And now then we'll go to mixture to cutoff. Prop all the way back. We can close the fuel tanks. Go ahead and get our beacon off now. Avionics 1 off and battery off. That is the aircraft nice and shut down here at Shishmaref. Sorry there wasn't any weather. I hope you all enjoyed the flight nonetheless. If you want to see us continue on, I probably will anyways, but if you like that kind of idea of a flight, let me know in the comments below for sure. As always, if you like the video, make sure to like it, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. And until next time, I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.